And now I request Dr. Francois Tadu to proceed with this ADIFAT General Assembly. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is just to say that this General Assembly is open to everybody, so it's not a restricted assembly. And if you are interested in the life of Interdrought and if in the future Congress and chair, please stay. Can I have the... Oh, yeah. I will begin with a special announcement. We probably are all a little bit tired. So we would like to go to the city in this afternoon, but there is a wrap-up session. We have tried to shorten it a little bit, so we can go to the time afterwards. But there are 6 young scientists who have worked hard whole week to convey us a message. So it's important that we are here. There is also the minister who will come. So the young scientists had told them that if we are less than 10 people, we'll do that over a beer. So this is doable, but I'm quite sure that the minister will not like the idea of doing that over a beer. So please be here. And the last argument is that I will carry a tie, and this is probably something that you may want to witness because this doesn't happen very often. Yes, so General Assembly. So the idea is to give you some idea of how Interdrought works, and then what is the future of the society. So Interdrought is an informal organization. It's not a legal entity. So this was a decision from the very beginning. It has pros and cons. The pros is that it's very light organization. There is no fee, so everybody interested can be in. This is based on imagination and goodwill, which when it's legal can be a little bit more complicated, but it's also more fragile. And we have had many internet-based fruitful discussion about what we want to do with the society. So I think it can work in this way of a light organization. The con is that at the end of the day, Interdrought doesn't really exist between conferences. So until now, we don't have a permanent website. We have no resource. So probably we'll try to work at least to have a permanent website between congresses. But having no fun between congresses is not the easiest thing. Anyway, so probably we will keep this informal organization. And again, it's based on goodwill and imagination, so feel free to participate to the life of Interdrought. So Interdrought is young, so I show that in the inaugural, too complicated, in the first day. So we have had basically 3, in 2013 we had basically 3 congresses. And well, to make things nice, and we had to move from a very strong leadership of basically 2 persons, the 2 persons that I showed on the first day, Abraham Bloom and Roberto Tuberosa, to an adult age. So now we need to change the chair every Congress, and we need to fine-tune a little bit the organization. So at the beginning of my mandate, when I was elected, I have proposed a new organization, simpler. There have been, and here we could see that the Interdrought community could work, because there have been many conversation and discussion via internet, different opinions, different point views, amendments, final version, and finally there has been an election. And so the community works, and we can change our rules, even if we are not a legal entity. So the new organization is that we have a chair, and the past chair has a role as well to keep track of the organization. So the chair and past chair and international scientific committee do the scientific orientation, the format of the conference, invited contributed speakers. So we have done basically the organization of this Congress. And the organization committee and the chair of the organization committee, who is Rajiv Varshney, do all the organization, the site, the practical issue, the sponsors. So it was a lot of work. In reality, things were simpler than that. So most of the big decisions have been taken by Rajiv, Roberto, and myself. So we need to have it's a large community. There are committees, but at the end of the day, we need some people to take the decisions. So before there were a lot of committees. Now we have decided to have an assembly. The assembly is the group of scientists who are interested in the life of Inti. So we have so this assembly can vote on the rules of the organization, and they choose the next chair. So in the last mandate, after the last mandate, all former members of the committees and the invited speakers of ID4 in Perth were members of the assembly. It has been refreshed with the speakers of this assembly and the members of the organization committee. So the current status of the Interdrought Assembly, who is in fact the governing body of Interdrought, it's 70 colleagues who, for instance, elected the next chair. So this probably needs new refreshment, and we have to elaborate probably a procedure to include many of you in this assembly, but probably not all, because has to be kept in a manageable size. Right, so I go to the next chair and the next Congress. So until now, there has been many discussions about that. Neil Turner can testify that. The chair and the Congress organization were two separate things, two separate persons. And again, the past chair kept the memory in the system. So this is a triangle that I've shown before. So again, pro, it allows a better diversity. It's probably a more resilient system. The con is that this creates a tension with that. We don't fight each other. But the scientific and the organization, it's sometimes a little bit complicated. So again, we have resolved that by having this triangle with which we have taken basically all the decision. So we didn't care whether Rajiv was in the organization, I was in the chair. The basic decision have been taken together. So the innovation that we have done this year, so because this works, we had better to elect together the chair and the next Congress. So at least we are sure that these guys are happy to work together in the future. Because otherwise, it was something like the all-day marriage in which you find your wife on the day of the marriage, and sometimes it's work, but sometimes it's complicated to handle. Right. So we had two candidates, two teams. So and each team was one potential chair and one potential organizer. So one came from Latin America, and we had Dr. Luis Aguirre from the University of Mar del Plata in Argentina, and Omar Borzani from University del Uruguay. And we had another team, Graham Hammer in University of Brisbane in Australia, and Mark Cooper from Pioneer DuPont. So there has been, again, an electronic vote. And I'm quite happy to say that there have been 73 votes. So it gives a good legitimacy. So the South American had 29 votes, and Graham and Mark had 42 votes. So the next chair is elected, and I think that we can. So can I ask Graham and Mark to come now, because they are the bosses now. I have finished my mandate from now on. which is very good, by the way. And so, while they arrive, perhaps we can take a few questions at the end, perhaps not, we'll see. We cannot discuss all the things about the organization in this assembly, but we can take a couple of questions if useful.
Well, I suppose it's just good to say thank you to the people who have elected us, and we're very keen to progress the tradition of Interdrought to Interdrought 6. And as you'll see, a bit like Francois, you have a hard time getting me into a tie as well. And so we're certainly keen to maintain the tradition and the community spirit that Interdrought has. It's a fairly unique community, and I think the way that Francois and the team have now rearranged it, it will really work a lot better. And certainly the idea of a triangle and the involvement of the past chairs, I think, is important. And perhaps the first thing I should do is formally thank Francois, Rajiv, Roberto for the wonderful event they've been able to organise here. So I think by acclamation. So I didn't really want to say much. I think the way we'll proceed is we will try to get some form of presence of website that can be sustaining. We will be using the structure that has now been arranged to move towards the next meeting. But I did just want to say a few things about how we might focus that, and I tried to just capture the essence of what Interdrought's about. Might not have got it very well, but because there's a sort of a core of activity that this community focuses around, it's a bit broader than probably what I've got here, but I sort of put it as high impact science for effective use of water in crop production systems, going from molecular, plant and field. That's the core of what we do. Now today we saw it is broader than that, but I think a lot of you will agree that that's the core of our base, and it does interact with lots of other things at other levels, but that's where Interdrought came from, and that's the community that we've got here. And I'm very pleased to be working with Mark again on this, because we go back a long way in exactly this space, and I just wanted to let you know that you've actually got a couple of experienced warriors here. I was going to say old warriors, but I thought Mark might object, and I didn't want to start the marriage with an argument. But it just reminded me that a lot of our interaction around this topic started in Hyderabad. So in the early 90s, we ran a workshop at ICRISAT on plant adaptation and crop improvement, which produced a very nice book at the time, and really has been, it was, I think, for ourselves and for a number of people, one of the sort of progenitors of some of the concepts that have now emerged into this community. And so, and there's now a lot of work going on, and we're doing some of it, and there's now a whole community in this space, which is fantastic. And I think the maturing of these concepts and the progression of them to higher levels of science and application is really great to see. And I think that's where the approach that we have in Interdrought 6 will not be that different to what you've seen in Interdrought 5. There's the importance of the disciplinary mix and integrating across those disciplines, from farming systems through agronomy, breeding, genetics, so on, right through. I've probably missed a couple, but the beauty of this community is that it does challenge your discipline to think outside of itself and in the context of crop production systems that are subject to water limitation. And it goes across developed and developing world agriculture. It's not just about research for development. It's about understanding what's going on in that system. And the current session structure, I think, sort of sits around this deconstruction of how crops use water by looking at total water use, how much is partitioned to transpiration, how much of the efficiency with which that's used, and the allocation into grain. So there are, at a plant and crop scale, there are a number of areas that focus the research and set up the session structures that we've been in today. As I said, it's a little bit broader than that and gets into this notion of modelling and how, in connecting with fundamental research and how that links into practice. So I think that's the notion that we'll continue, and we will look towards developing themes for Interdrought 6 in that fashion. I'll just hand over to Mark, who has some ideas about where this might happen, and so he can fill you in on that.
Thanks very much, Graham. And again, as Graham said, thank you to everybody that have confidence in the opportunity that we've been given to continue the Interdrought spirit. It's a community of practice that I'm really excited to be part of. And as Francois discussed, it is quite different than a lot of other societies that we find ourselves in. And the exciting thing about it to me is that it's a community that sort of self-organizes because of the passion behind the science of understanding the impact of water availability in agriculture and all of the questions that actually go with that for systems throughout the world. And obviously what we're really interested in doing is making sure that we have a very exciting meeting, because that really is the core that everybody actually looks forward to. And so if we look at the geography of where the meetings have been held, Francois went through this in the past, there was a lot of interest in having a meeting in the Americas. So it was, I think, healthy to have proposals that suggested that we could actually hold a successful meeting in either North America or in South America. And again, very excited that we have the opportunity to do this on behalf of everybody, to hold a meeting at a location that would allow us to have a very exciting program and meeting in North America. So in terms of the timing, I don't know that there's any hard and fast rule if you look at the history of the timing of our meetings, but we thought that quite a nice target to aim for would be around 2020 in North America, and to target this around the July-August type time frame. In North America, this gives us the opportunity to look at some of the farming systems that are in operation in that area, with an emphasis on drought. So I think that's what we're looking at, and obviously one of the first things Graham, with Graham and the International Steering Committee, we have to look at is make sure that we're not in conflict with any other meetings that would compromise the ability of the members of Interdrought to participate in this meeting. So, as I said, location in North America, in the US, and what we've actually done is we're looking at a series of options. And so I'm a definite proponent of always having a good plan A, but definitely also holding on to a plan B and a plan C, so that as situations unfold, you can always look at the likelihood of success, and if that doesn't look good after you've investigated everything, then you start pursuing your other opportunities. The location that we've identified as our highest priority is sort of in the California area, in the Central Valley. The major city there is Sacramento. It's the capital of California, so there's quite a lot of facilities. It also gives good access to quite a diverse range of systems of agriculture and horticulture. And there's also the wine industry in that area as well. And water availability, drought, water management is a significant aspect of that whole area. I'm sure a number of you are very familiar with that. Another major city that's there is San Francisco. Although this may be an entry point for people internationally, the cost of this and the accessibility, if we included field tours, would make that probably not a high priority. A number of people have sort of suggested that also. But just to give you an idea of the priority one location, Backup plans would be Denver in Colorado, and then the sort of in the Iowa area where you have access to the central area of the U.S. agriculture, field row crop agriculture around Iowa. There's the possibility there, and it is the location of the Pioneer International Headquarters, and it's also very close to the Iowa State University campus as well in Ames. So there are some very strong opportunities to have a location there. Again, that would be our priority 3. One of the other things that I would be looking at doing that Rajiv was obviously extremely successful at doing is really focusing on how we get the appropriate sponsorship to run this meeting, because as Francois said, there is no carryover funds. This isn't a formal legal society, so basically all of the investment for this meeting has to balance out in some way, with ICRISAT providing a lot of the housing and support for them, but there's no transfer of funds, unfortunately no transfer of debt, if that is also the situation, to the next society. So you basically have to start from scratch and work out how to do this. So as you can see, Rajiv was extremely successful on the sponsorship, and I think private public interest in this would be something that we'd be looking at taking full advantage of, so that we actually build that really strong foundation to build a really exciting meeting. So with that, if Graham wants to finalize, or Francois, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover.
So again, thank you for Mark, Graham, Luis, and Omar to have taken the time to build these programs. And I hope that we have a very good next meeting, and probably a little bit more live before 2020 of the society. There is 1 question, 2 questions, 3 questions. And probably we want to stop here afterwards because we probably want to have lunch.
Am I live?
Yeah.
2 really comments. We've had a vote. South America was second, but it's not really like the US election where the president takes all. And so I wonder, is there any consideration about South America into the future? That's 1 comment and question. And the other is really, this morning, several people spoke to me about it would have been nice to have the session that we've had today, and perhaps part of yesterday, at the beginning as a scene setting area. I just passed those comments on because we've done it both ways, I think, in the past, but there were a number of comments today suggesting that the more scene setting agronomic work might be better at the beginning.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, look, we've had some discussions around the making contact with the group in South America, and we were hopeful they might be here. But certainly the intent would be to engage them in this process and to build that connection potentially for something that might move into the future, and also to build that community into that part of the world. So we'll certainly be taking that on board. In relation, we've had we had a feedback session yesterday around aspects of how the program was working and what was working and what might be changed. And I think we're happy to take suggestions on board. I think Francois, you want to make a comment about that?
No, just I take the positive part of your question. I'm very happy that the session of today happened. It is somewhat new in InterDrought to have presentations at this scale, and I think, well, I'm an agronomist by formation, so I will not say the opposite. But definitely, it was important to have this session now. Should it have been before, etc., then we can discuss, and it's done. But next time we'll do. There was another question, yes.
Well, my name is K.C. Bansal. I am from Indian Council of Agricultural Research, New Delhi. of course, I congratulate both the previous chairs, for organizing this wonderful ID5 and welcome the 2 new chairs for the ID6. But when we all, go through different sessions, and ultimate goal of all research, whether it's basic, strategic, or upstream research in different disciplines, we all do. But our goal is defined, and that is drought tolerance. Okay, and that too for different target environments. So I think it would be nice that if we can really speaking organize some of the sessions, just only a proposal, which are based on crops, and also because we're working using all these different strategies, different crops have got different strategies to cope up with drought stress, and that too in different target environments. So ultimately, can we therefore all come together as a community belonging to different basic disciplines we all listed here, by the present chairs, the kind of approach they are trying to take it up, including all agronomy or whatever we're talking about. But ultimately, can we also have a proportion number of even plant breeders participating in our conference, so that they are really the takers of the technology of or something which we are trying to propose and talk about it, and if it is translated, because they talk a different language and we try to give them a message in a different language at times. So therefore I believe it has not been really so successfully so far to breed for drought resistance, though I can see, of course, there are examples, there are success stories which are presented here. But then can there be also a proportional number of kind of audience or the participation from the plant breeders or molecule breeders in large number, so that whatever the research is being done, which will of course remain there, but can we even take it forward, for the developing world particularly, to make into really speaking profitability for the farmers, under drought conditions particularly. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you probably express attention from one perspective, and if I asked 100 people in the room, I would get a similar attention from another 100 perspectives. And so I think the beauty of this community is that it works across those tensions and tries to integrate things. And I think you'll find there were a number of plant breeders here, and hopefully the integration, the themes that we're talking about here are not disciplinary themes. I put up a list of disciplines, but when you look at the way the themes are structured in this meeting, they're operating across those disciplines. That's the beauty. And some of these things go right through to practice. Some of them are very fundamental research. I don't think what you're suggesting is not actually encompassed. Some people will think there's not enough at the practical end. Some people will think there's not enough at the fundamental end. Some people will think the order's wrong. There's not enough in the middle. So if you're probably not getting those sort of concerns, then you're probably not doing it correctly.
Having said that, perhaps, yes, absolutely. If Graham agrees with that, perhaps we can open a session for suggestions. Our email, so you can send suggestions. Hopefully we open a website, not in too much time, but probably not next week either. So you can do that by email. So we are very happy to receive a suggestion. To be very clear, as Graham has said, it's clear that we will not follow all suggestions together, because there is a good chance that they are not compatible. But I think it's something, and we would be extremely happy to receive it and to post it somewhere, and that the Interdrought Assembly discusses of that, because this is the spirit of Interdrought, I think.
Yeah, I agree with what Bansal said, but there is always a but. Number one, I want, and pardon me, a few comments, if I may. I'm in between lunch, so it's a very dangerous situation. I know.
If we can still have lunch, it would be nice.
I know, don't worry. In the next hour or so, I'm kidding. Number one, thank you very much to you, Rajiv, and his team. They've done a wonderful job. A little joke, you said, and you're right, Interdrought was rescued by Abraham and myself and the group of scientists. Two strong personalities, and you are no short of that, you and Rajiv. And I take it as a compliment. And I think my role at time was trying to be in between, to soften things a little bit, but thank you very much for everything. A very important point is what Bansal said. Ironically, as you may recall, because if I were to say how many have done all the 5 interdrought, probably they won't be more than 10 or 11. Oh, okay, I thought you took off the microphone, so I shut my mouth up. Ironically, interdrought, as you may recall, started as a mainly plant breeding congress in Montpellier, 1995. I think that the strength of interdrought and the fact shows that it is, pardon me the term, a very plastic congress. We have heard about plasticity, the importance of plasticity, both from an agronomic and genetic standpoint. I think the fact that today we have as a chair of the Congress, Francois Tardier, take it as a compliment, of course, and next, Graham Hammer, it shows that we do want to go towards this direction because Francois said, I was an agronomist, right? But I would say, take it as a compliment, too many compliments today. Francois has been one of the most plastic scientists I've ever met. And I'm pleased to have collaborated with you. Enough for compliments. Let's get to the point, quick. And that's my question for you. I was expecting that you would have brought up today, that goes back to what Bansal was advocating. Well, can't we have a little more breeding? But you said, and Graham, well, why don't we have something more of something else? And I don't want to sound erratic, pardon me the term. And you know, the guiding rule of interdrought, everybody listening to everybody. I have a little bit of a gut feeling, pardon me the term, that we are ready to morph and be plastic again, because in my feeling, when we go back, we all have to ask ourselves, what have we learned from having been there? I've learned things, don't take me wrong, but I think my feeling is that we are at a stage that, given the fact that we do need to have a core of 3 days, for example, but perhaps you're ready to start thinking about parallel session at the end, where the different categories can go deep enough in their own comfort area to go back. They have learned something which everybody has done here today at the general level, but you feel also that you've gone back, that you have learned more at a deeper level. Because particularly for the young people, and I see a lot of young people, we have to be careful not to be 1 mile wide and 1 inch deep, as compared to 1 mile deep and 1 inch wide. We need to find a compromise. It's not easy. Can I have your opinion, your unbiased opinion on that? Thank you. And I apologize for being so long.
My opinion is that we probably want to talk, all of us, about that in the next weeks or months. We will be more than happy to receive opinions. And we have to decide, because we are a community, of what we want to have as the next conference. My opinion is that I was very happy that breeders could hear both of aquaporins, but also of agronomy, that the people of aquaporins could hear about breeding, and I think that this is important. So whether this should be a little bit shorter than this one, we'll see, but definitely having a possibility that is quite different from other conferences. Other conference has parallel session, you see your guys, you see your mates that you have met in the other conference last time. Here we want to do something slightly different. How exactly to do that will be the debate of the next weeks or months. And with that, probably we want to have lunch, and I again urge you to try to be here at 2 o'clock for the wrapping up, just for the young scientists, the minister and myself. And we will try to finish by 3:30, 4, so ahead of the schedule of what is printed.
Thanks very much, Dr. Tadu, and congratulations to Dr. Graham Hammer and Mark Cooper for Interdrought 6.